Baltimore 64% right now. With a win, it's 76%. With a loss, it's 30%. Just to sort of dig into what's at stake. So the question is, who do you trust more, the Chiefs or the Ravens, to get their season back on track?
Well, look, as much as it pains me to say this,
bro,
the Chiefs are the better team.
Oh my God!
I'm nothing if not objective.
Now the show's not working.
I gotta tell the truth. The Chiefs are the better team. They've proven it. How many times? They've beaten them the last 3 times they played.
Yeah.
6 out of the last 7 times they played. I think that might even go back. That's the beginning of Mahomes' career, and Lamar as well. So they've proven they're the better team. Obviously, Mahomes is having a better season. Even though this isn't your typical Mahomesian year, it's still better than what Lamar is doing right now. So the Chiefs, and if the Chiefs make the playoffs, they will be, I firmly believe they'll be the favorite in the AFC. If the Ravens make the playoffs,
they might limp
not
in and
so much, right? They could now if they go on a streak and win out, then and Lamar starts playing great again, maybe they'll be the favorite if the Chiefs are out. That said, though, and I think Nick will agree with me, the Ravens have a better chance. I'm not just the numbers. I am more confident in the Ravens making the playoffs than the Chiefs making the playoffs. Because just the path. I mean,
the Ravens are more likely to get in. The Chiefs are more likely to do damage if they get in.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
And so here's what I feel about Baltimore, though. The defense is legitimate. I'm not worried about the 32 points they gave up to Cincinnati because in that first half, that defense was great. 4 times Cincinnati was in the red zone. 4 times they forced them to go for field goals. Once it was 1st and goal from the 2. And Baltimore stopped them. So the defense is fine.
For you now, though.
I know, but I do look. I sincerely have confidence that Lamar Jackson is going to come out of this. Now he might not get to the point where he played early in the season, but he's gonna be better than this. And even if he's better but not great, now the coaching staff has to be smart. You got Derrick Henry. And the other two, Keaton, what's his name?
Keaton Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell is running the ball pretty well. He's averaging 6 yards a carry. Like, you have a run game that you can go to if Lamar's not the old Lamar for the rest of this season. So I feel, like I said, Kansas City is a better team. I would have strong hope for my Ravens if they meet them in the playoffs. But the Ravens do have a better chance of making the playoffs.
So, I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer, and it's less about faith in Kansas City. The Ravens have not looked good once all year. The closest they've come to a game you left feeling great about was a game Lamar didn't play, the win against Chicago.
You know right.
Like, you know what I mean? That's
and I thought they played. I mean, they blew it.
But week 1.
Against
week
Buffalo,
1
they
for 55
great.
minutes, they looked like the best team. Right. Their high watermark of the season is the 7-minute mark of the 4th quarter of game 1.
Right.
And then since then, I don't feel like there is a single game. The Ravens, again, the Bears game maybe, but you feel like that doesn't have Lamar, so it's such a meaningless to what they're going to be moving forward. You can hang your hat on. So the Chiefs have a lot of issues that I've talked about, and the third down stuff, the defense, the offense having extended flashes of brilliance, then extended periods of doing nothing, and they right now have 3 starting offensive linemen not practicing. 1 just went to the IR.
Not good.
Coming up against the Texans, not good. But the Chiefs do have whole games to look to from this season of that's when we showed what we could be. Now, what you could be gets you nothing, but at least it's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is the Chiefs have not looked anywhere close to being as bad as what the Baltimore Ravens have showed. I mean, say what you will about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Even when things are imperfect, even when he's dealing with O-line issues, receivers down, not the best defense, etc., 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 his floor is not even close. Not even close to what we've seen out of Lamar Jackson just this year. Just this year. We could talk about injuries. We could talk about the O-line and this. at this point, like I unless Lamar is legitimately fundamentally injured, and if he is, well then I don't know what he's doing. Then I don't know why he's playing then, because you're not helping your team. Then Tyler Huntley looked better. So it's like I'm not one of those people where it's like if you're all on the field then you're healthy, then you better perform. Like I'm not that person either. Remember I heard Joy Taylor said that a couple years ago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what are you even talking about right now? Like that's not how this works. But like it's just been exceptionally bad. It just has been. And maybe it's a perfect storm where it's just the injuries to himself, the injuries to the rest of the team just not being good enough, etc., etc. But like, I think the team is still good enough to at least look better than what we've seen. That's more my greater point. And although, as you guys know how I feel about Andy Reid, I do believe that Andy Reid can overcome the issues of like an O-line, this receiver and that receiver and whatnot, better than any other coach out there. So now, by virtue, the Justin Herberts, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens don't benefit from that. But like, I'm like shook by what I see out of Lamar. I really am. Like, and this Baltimore Ravens team, I'm just like, wow, this is kind of crazy right now. And we've seen seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs, okay, where just use last year or the year before that, where things just weren't quite right. They obviously didn't have this stacked roster. Yeah, they had great defenses or whatever, where they could hang their hat on various things. And that's why I've said Patrick Mahomes is not carrying these teams. He's not taking a bunch of nobodies to Super Bowls. Like I have rejected that narrative year after year after year, and I continue to do so. But like some Kansas City Chiefs fans have always took that as a point of me saying, oh, Mahomes doesn't deserve any of the credit, or that, oh, that means he's just carried by Andy in the defense. And I've always like, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying either. And allow me now to emphasize that take as clearly as possible. We still see what Mahomes has been able to do with messier teams and imperfect situations. And it just looks a whole lot better than what I'm seeing many other quarterbacks and many other teams doing, right now, okay? And even though, again, I've even said I've defended Patrick Mahomes this season, and I've also said that Patrick Mahomes hasn't been good enough this season, right? I defended them for why the record started off how it did, and I said I still think the Chiefs are legit, etc., but then also can acknowledge, yeah, you threw a pick here, you threw a pick there, that was a bad throw there. Like, you are contributing to some of these losses. You can't just say, what do you want him to do? The O-line, what do you want him to do? Rashee Rice wasn't there. Like, that's not justifiable either. As I always say, you got to have the whole conversation. You got to have the whole conversation, especially when you're Patrick Mahomes and considered to be, you're in the legitimate conversation of, is this the greatest quarterback of all time? It's like, okay, if we're going to have that conversation, better believe we are going to go through every single moment where you fail and succeed, That's how it works. It's what we've done with Tom Brady. It's what we've done with Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, etc. And so that's just the way it works for me. But like, with all that said, watching this, you're just like, how do I not feel better about the Kansas City Chiefs right now? Who would you rather, like, that's why when Nick had his whole, rankings, his whole tiers, it's just like, even though the Chiefs are where they are at from a ranking perspective, from a seeding perspective, and I know their ability to get to the playoffs is harder because of the path, I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm looking at the Chiefs, and it's just like, the Chiefs are better than the Bucs. They just are. I got way more confident in the Chiefs over the 49ers. I just do. I got way more confidence over the Texans right now. And again, you guys know I'm pretty high on the Philadelphia Eagles. I got more confidence in the Kansas City Chiefs than I do the Philadelphia Eagles. They're playing a higher quality football, and their offense at least doesn't feel broken. Because that's the thing. Even with the Chiefs, even though they're losing, they've lost games and whatnot, you don't watch them and just say, they don't have no chance. What the heck's wrong with them? I don't think you could say that in a single game this season. I mean, you really can't. I mean, the Chiefs-Chargers, that was a 6-point game. Slightly misleading because of how the Chargers kind of let them in. That was the Chargers were definitely in control of that game, but still, it still almost became possible. I remember watching that game. It was a standalone game on like Friday or whatever on YouTube, and I was definitely like, are the Chiefs about to pull this game off right now? Like, does the magic start from week one? Like, it was still a possibility. The Chiefs-Eagles game, that was a close game. The kind of crazy interception, Eagles were deserving to win that game, but still obviously right there. They beat the Giants They smoked the Ravens. That game wasn't even close from the jump. From the jump, you're just like, what is going on right now? The Jaguars, Chiefs, I think it's a fair statement to say that the Chiefs should have won that game. I watched that game and was like, I still think the Chiefs are better. I came out there post-game and was like, the Chiefs are better than the Jags. That's just how I feel. They beat the Lions, obviously beat the Raiders. They beat the Commanders. A tough game against the Bills. Again, Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills on the road. They're not going to win every single game. It was still a close game. It was a competitive game. Josh Allen needed to be perfect. Patrick Mahomes was awful, and yet it was still a 7-point game. The Broncos, Chiefs, people are saying that the Broncos are a top team in the NFL, and the only reason why they don't believe that is because of Bo Nix, and yet in this game, Bo Nix played awesome. Bo Nix, the Denver Broncos, played awesome. And yes, Patrick Mahomes had a devastating interception. He had 2 interceptions, but only one of them counted. That had devastating consequences, and it still was a final second field goal to win the game, right? So it's like, this is what we're talking about here. Going up against the Colts, obviously win, and then it was a 3-point loss against the Chiefs. Whereas like you look at the Ravens, you've seen Eagles losses, Ravens losses, you've seen some of these other teams losses, the Bucks, the Bills. You're like, the floor completely falls out from these teams. Getting dominated by the Dolphins or the Bears or the Giants or, whatever teams you want to use, the Bengals as a reference point. That does mean something to me. Which is why that means something to me more than the Chiefs blowing out the Commanders, blowing out the Raiders. That means nothing to me. That really does. Not looking right for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Chicago Bears, that means a lot to me. The Baltimore Ravens getting smoked by the Bengals, that means a lot to me. Now, we can say, well, you know what? You had some weird interceptions and fumbles, kind of fluky a little bit, fumbling into the back of the end zone. And that's fair. Again, I think it's important to still view games, through that complex lens. I really do. And you could be like, well, what are the odds of that happening again? And, Lamar hasn't been perfect right now, but like, does that mean that he's just going to start turning the ball over 2-3 times a game, every single game? Like, probably not. And so, like, you can say, that game was maybe a little bit fluky and whatnot. I think that would be a fair assessment, especially if they were playing higher quality football, though. And they're not. And Nick says, hey, one of their best games was against the Bears. And, and that was when Lamar didn't play. And Tyler Huntley played like he was Lamar in that game. Like, you watch that game and you're like, well, that's Lamar Jackson right now. Like, Lamar Jackson literally couldn't do it any better in that moment. You couldn't ask your quarterback to play any better in that moment. And, of course, then they come away with the win. So, I just feel immensely more confidence behind the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Kansas City Chiefs lose to the Texans, I would actually be stunned. I would genuinely be. I know the O-line with the Chiefs and maybe that defense really is just as historically great as the numbers suggest, and it just becomes so much. But maybe that the Kansas City Chiefs defense is really that rough right now, and so even very, very imperfect, and quite frankly, anyone who's watching Texans game, their offenses are tough to watch. It's tough to watch. You watch that and you're just frustrated. You're angry. You're just like, what are you doing right now? And you're just like, oh my God, this is so unbearable to watch. And on the flip side, you watch the defense and you're just like, oh, I could watch this all day. This is absolutely unbelievable. This is an absolute masterclass. This is just spectacular. And maybe that's all it needs. Maybe that's all they need to be able to beat a team like the Kansas City Chiefs right now. I would be surprised. I would be insanely impressed by the Houston Texans, and I would be on the fence. I'd have to see how the game unfolded, but if the Chiefs actually lost that, I'd be on the fence if it would really show you that's just how rough the Chiefs are right now, or it would be more about like, no man, the Texans actually are legit. This defense is in the position to control every single game they're in, and they just need competency and to not turn the ball over from their offense, and they are going to win games. So I'm excited to see how that game unfolds, but so many people are talking about how the Cowboys are the most dangerous team in the NFL, and that if they get into the playoffs, like they'll be favored to win the NFC and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, all right. And look at the game that we saw against the Chiefs and the Cowboys. Like, then you're saying that could have been a Super Bowl matchup. And like, look at it. It was right there. It was a coin flip game. And granted, like I kept telling everyone over Thanksgiving, because they were like, look at all these close games. And I was like, well, guys, that's the NFL. Like every single game ends up being close. Every single game is like a -3, +2, -3.5. Like every game is essentially a 1-score game. Like that's the NFL. So you can't just say, well, it was a 3-point game, therefore they're right there. It's like, you can't do that either. It's why you got to just watch and see, how is the game unfolding? Is it a close game because you're seeing high quality play? Is it a close game because it's really ugly and not good? Like, what's the actual story here? I don't see bad play by the Kansas City Chiefs. I see imperfect play, but I see imperfect play by all these teams right now. I see imperfect play by all of these teams right now. But I don't see the floor as I do for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs right now, even though they're not even in the playoffs, I'd argue that their floor has not been lower than any of these other teams that are firmly in the playoffs. Whether it's the Seahawks, the Rams, the Bills, the Patriots, the Broncos, the Bears, the Eagles, whoever. And that does mean something, especially when you're trying to figure out, what does this team need to do to get on track? How dangerous can this team be in the playoffs? I do believe that a team like the Philadelphia Eagles could genuinely get blown out in the wild card round. I do not believe that the Kansas City Chiefs could get blown out in the wild card round, right? So that becomes a fundamental difference to me, which is yeah. I think that goes a long way for me. I constantly watch games and think to myself, who's in control of this game? Was the other team in control the entire time? How did it feel, rather than just the final box score? And it is actually kind of interesting, because I guess I'm realizing this also right now in real time, because I've always downplayed when a great team or a good team smokes and dominates a bad team. It's something that I've talked about a lot, and something that a lot of people struggle with, because every time, the Kansas City Chiefs fans got mad at me because I was like, congrats, you beat the Commanders, or congrats, you beat the whatever. And then they were like, well, why are you celebrating when the Broncos beat the Commanders? And I was like, well, because I saw a significantly higher quality game out of the Commanders there. And so it changed my view of that game. I did not see that when the Chiefs played. And I'm not just going to say, well, that's because the Chiefs made it that way. And it's like, sure, whatever you say. But like, in terms of the floor, though, of some of these games, whether you're playing a great opponent or a bad opponent, that means a ton to me. In a lot of ways, we should probably be more focused when trying to evaluate and figure out a team. Are you more impressed when a team blows out another team, or when their floor is clearly kind of low, kind of shaky? I think it's jarring when you see the Eagles lose as much as they did to the Giants, or when you see how unsuccessful their offense can be for literally entire games, or the Packers, or the Lions. Like I said, we can go through all the teams right now, and you haven't seen that with the Chiefs. So, yeah, I think it's a crazy situation right now, and I don't think that the Chiefs deserve this unconditional, well, they're the Chiefs, of course they're the best team, or of course they're the top team, and if they get in the playoffs, they'll be favored to win, and this, that, and the third. Like, I don't know if they deserve that, like, automatic unconditionalness. But even though the way how they are right now at 6-6, watching them play, even if we got rid of any of the sense of like, this is Mahomes, this is Andy, they've been to 3 straight Super Bowls, like, even if we got rid of all of that, I think if we're being honest with ourselves and we were just watching how they're playing right now, I still think we could say this is a team that is playing high quality football. They just keep losing these close 1-score games. And so, yeah, I'm going to be making a Broncos video, and, it's like they have like 9 straight come from behind wins. And it's just, I'm going to talk about that in the perspective of why people doubt the Broncos or have concerns about the Broncos. And yet you have other teams that maybe have a worse record or whatever, but haven't needed these come from behind fourth quarter wins. And it's just like, how do we rank those teams? How do we develop more confidence in one direction or the other? And there's really no set answer, honestly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Who do you trust more, the Chiefs or the Ravens, to get their season on track? And right, I encourage you all to not answer the question the way of like, who's more likely to get into the playoffs, because it is the Ravens, right? The Ravens clearly have an easier, better path to be able to get into the playoffs than the Kansas City Chiefs. So I would encourage you all just to look at it from a more of like quality of play rather than just using the likelihood of one team or not getting into the playoffs. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.